All right, my friends, so the new month is officially upon us, and what better way to kick it off than with a dividend portfolio update? Today, we're getting all caught up to speed, and I'll show you everything like my best and worst performing stocks for the month, all of my recent moves in the portfolio, and we'll discuss what my upcoming plans are here in June. But before we get to that, guys, I want to hear from you. Leave me a comment below and let me know what's been going on in your portfolio this last month. Were you up? Were you down? Did you hit any cool milestones in your portfolio? I want to hear all about it in the comments below. Anyway, getting into how my portfolio performed this last month over here on my dividend portfolio tracking spreadsheet, which you can start using for free. There is a link to download this spreadsheet in the description of the video. But anyway, starting with my main taxable brokerage account here, it's currently sitting at $59,451, which is slightly up since our last portfolio update. And I've got to say, May overall was a very interesting month. I saw my portfolio do a lot of this, and I'm sure you guys saw the same in your portfolios as well. The first half of the month was really strong and had my main account hitting all-time highs, as we can see here, but then over the course of the next couple of weeks, it had dropped about 4.5%, so quite a big drop just in a short amount of time before beginning to make its way back up again. And despite all of the fluctuations throughout the month, overall, I ended up gaining about $532 in the month of May, which if we look at the breakdown, we can see about $317 of that came from share price appreciation. Then we had another $215 or so coming from dividend income, with some of my largest payments being this one here from Starbucks, who paid me $34.29 in May, along with this one right here, a whopping $58.11 from Enterprise Products Partners. That was a really good payment. Now, if you want to see the full breakdown and see all of my dividend payments from this last month, then check out the video I have linked in the pinned comment. I go through it all there. But anyway, guys, this $532 gain represents a 0.9% rate of return, which, as we can see, did underperform the rest of the market. The S&P for the month was up about 5%, the Dow was up about 2.6%, and the NASDAQ was up about 4.7%. And looking at this on a year-to-date basis, so far in 2024, my portfolio is up about 4.75%, so not too bad. I am underperforming the S&P, which is up 11.3%, but I am beating the Dow by about 1.25 percentage points. So I will take that, and I'm also underperforming the NASDAQ, which is up just a little bit more than the S&P. And then zooming out once more, looking at the last 365 days, my portfolio is up 18.3%, which is a really nice gain, but still, in this time period, I am underperforming the rest of the market. And now, real quick, comparing my portfolio to SCHD, which is the holy grail of dividend ETFs, SCHD actually did outperform my portfolio in the last month. SCHD was up about 2.2%, but I'm still beating the holy grail on a year-to-date basis and in the last 1 year period, so I will take that. So overall, May ended up being a pretty uneventful month as far as changes in portfolio value go, and for the most part, the same was true when you look at all of my individual holdings, except there were a couple in the portfolio that saw some pretty substantial gains. Now jumping over to Seeking Alpha, taking a look at my best performing stock for the month, this was Apple, who as we can see was up 10.2% in the last 30 days, so a really nice gain. You can see that they really popped here after reporting their quarterly earnings, which beat expectations on both the top and bottom line. But along with this, Apple also announced a 4.2% dividend increase, so a nice little raise there, along with a historic $110 billion share buyback program, which is the largest ever in US history. So this is what really sent the share price soaring. Anyway, moving on, the second stock in my portfolio that saw a noticeable gain in May was Southern Company, who as we can see was up 8.12% in the last 30 days, and they also reported their quarterly earnings in May, which revealed a slight miss on revenue, even though it was still up year over year, and a beat on the bottom line, both of which, at least in part, came as a result of substantially high electricity sales to data centers. We can see that was up 12% year over year. And with this nice gain in the last month, that's going to leave Southern Company with a year-to-date gain of 14.3%. So this company is just been on fire in 2024. So both of those, Apple and Southern Company, did really well for me this last month. And now on the other hand, in terms of poor performing stocks, the only one in my portfolio that saw any notable drop off was Starbucks, who in the last month was down 8.75%. And Starbucks was also my worst performer in our last portfolio update for the month of May. And I don't want to beat a dead horse because I've talked about it in quite a handful of videos throughout this last month, but the reason for the drop is still just the poor quarterly earnings they put out at the end of April. But since the drop, guys, which which sent the share price down to a low of about $73-ish per share. Throughout the last month, Starbucks has started to make its rebound. It started to head back up, and now it's sitting just above $80 per share. So we'll see where it goes from here. And looking at the rest of my positions real quick, like I said, Starbucks was the only one in my portfolio that saw any notable decline. Otherwise, it was a pretty tame month. I mean, Lowe's was down just under 3%, Main Street was down 1.25%, and then the rest of these here were not even down 1%. And out of all of these stocks that saw some red in the last month, I only actively added to one of them. Alright guys, now on that note, getting into all of my buys and sells for the month, really the only individual stock I added to was my biggest loser. It was Starbucks. Throughout the month of May, I added almost 10 shares of this company at an average cost per share of $75.77, which if we take a look at my position is going to leave me with just under 63 shares of Starbucks, which is really nice. And my average cost per share, because I've been buying at such a low price, has started to come down, and now it's sitting at $88.35, where prior to my shopping spree with Starbucks, it was up above $90 per share. So I like the direction this is heading. And then in my Roth IRA, I continued to make my weekly purchases of SCHD and VU. And with SCHD, I picked up almost 5 shares in the month of May at an average cost of $78.80, which is going to leave me with almost 76 shares of the holy grail of dividend ETFs. And with this, there's no doubt that I'll hit 100 shares of this fund by the end of the year, which is my goal. And with these purchases in the last month, SCHD has officially become the largest overall position in my portfolio, making up about 8.5% of the total weighting, and it won't be long until its weighting is in the double digits. But anyway, looking at the last purchase here, this one was VU. I picked up 0.28 shares throughout the month at an average cost of $479.25, and overall I'd say it was a very straightforward month of buying, but yeah, those were all of my purchases for the month. With that, guys, now moving on and taking a closer look at my Roth IRA here over on M1 Finance, my Margarita money portfolio. This is almost at $10,000. Right now it's sitting at $9,877 to be exact. And in the last month, this portfolio saw a 3% gain, which is really nice. That's going to leave it with a year-to-date gain of 6.6%. I will take it. And then it's going to leave me with an all-time gain in the Roth IRA of 27.6%. And what's really cool, guys, is that by this time next month, this account, this Roth IRA, should be over $10,000, which will be a really cool milestone, pending, anything crazy happening in the market. If things just keep going as they have been, we should hit $10,000. But if for some reason we see a substantial drop, might not hit it. So we'll see what this next month brings, but I'm feeling good about it. And with that, guys, if we take my main taxable account at $59,451, it's generating $2,411 of dividend income, and add that to my Roth IRA sitting close to $10,000 and bringing in $254 per year, that's going to leave me with a combined portfolio value of $69,328 and my dividend income at $2,665, which is really nice. And this represents a $35 gain compared to this time last month. So I'll take that. And this also represents a year-to-date gain in dividend income of $192. Now, as far as my watch list goes, I didn't make any real changes to it this month. We still more or less have the same stocks on here, Rollins and Vici. The only one that's missing compared to last month is Zoetis. And you might notice that I also changed the name of this list from being my due diligence list to now being the companies I want to buy. The stocks on this list are ones that I am dead certain that at some point I want to add to the portfolio. And I just feel like this name reflects that a lot better than the previous one. And then I made this other list here, which I guess is probably more akin to what the due diligence list should have been, and this is where Zoetis now sits, but these are all of the companies I might want to buy. All the companies on this list are ones that I understand, they're in my circle of competence, I can wrap my head around how they make money, and they're ones that I find interesting and think have potential, but I need to spend more time researching them before I can be sure that I want to add them to the portfolio. As time goes on, I'll definitely be adding more companies to this list, and I'm sure that I'll be removing some as well upon further evaluation, but nonetheless, whatever changes I make to this other watch list, I'll keep you guys in the loop. But anyway, if you're in the market for some cheap dividend stocks, then check out this next video right over here, where I'm telling you about 3 that are deeply discounted and all look like great pickups right now in the month of June. So click right over here to check them out, and I'll see you in the next one.